Hello friends, this is Neil Cooper. I'm a former shepherd of two large flocks, 1300 each, and one flock of 700. I got made redundant because of the recession in the sheep industry back in 1992 in the UK. So I've been doing other things since then. But for small flock owners or other flock owners, just putting down some of my thoughts and, going through the process of the year of, giving instruction and insights into different things you might come across. Of course, different countries, different places in the country come across different things. Anyway, this one's post-lambing, about turnout after, the ewes and lambs of 24 hours old, 48 hours old out into the field, and what should progress for the next few weeks. Well, one of the things I said about, the ewes lambing indoors or in a bale yard or whatever you use is to, after they've been in their individual pen for 24 hours, put them into a follow-on pen, which, you have 15, 20 ewes in, and they get used to finding their own mother. Otherwise, you can spend hours out in the field chasing them around trying to find which lamb belongs to which ewe. Now, obviously, marking your ewes and lambs with a number on them is a good thing to do. Now, we used to mark singles one colour, twins another, and then the odd triplet another colour. We didn't turn many triplets out. We tried to always foster them off. So anyway, that's a good thing, so you can find the ewe that the lamb belongs to, isn't it? So, you turn out into the field, and there's a few things you've got to start watching for. Now, if you're a larger flock and you're putting down new lays that are, sown in the autumn time, in the springtime, if you're using nitrogen fertilizers, the nitrogen in the fertilizer on a new lay, particularly not so bad on older grass that's 2 or 3 years old, or old, lays, whatever that happens to be. But on new lays, the first year, you can get a lot of hypermagnesemia, magnesium deficiency, and the nitrogen fertilizers that you use on there, it locks the magnesium up so they get a deficiency in it. And usually on a cold and frosty morning, you find one killed over dead, with hypermagnesemia, magnesium deficiency. So that's something to watch out for. Now, the trouble is, that's what you do. You find them dead. You don't really find them in between stage. But if you do find a ewe that's down, get a bottle of, and get it for cattle, 500ml bottle of, magnesium to treat it. And again, it's like calcium. You just inject it under the skin, behind the shoulder, about 50 to 100ml of it on a ewe, and within a couple of hours they'll be right as rain usually. So, that's something to watch out for. But, we had like 100 to 200 ewes in a field on new lay, and that's several ewes you might lose through hypermagnesemia. So you can get magnesium licks. You should always have your minerals and freshwater minerals and vitamins out in the field, whatever it is, sheep vitamins, with no copper in, that you can put a magnesium lick in the field, which might help. You can also put magnesium fluid into the water troughs, which you have to keep topping up, which, it's okay, but not particularly that easy to keep judging how much to put in there. And if you've got little water troughs, then, that's only any good in the cattle water trough, really, isn't it? So, I don't know what else they might do for water troughs to put that in, but it might be worth looking into. Because you might be able to put like some block in there and it slowly dissolves. But the surefire way of making sure they don't get hypermagnesemia, and we did it with quite big ewes. I don't think you'd be able to do this with a very small ewe or a ewe lamb. We got the cattle bullets, magnesium bullets. And for cattle, you give them 2 and it just sits in their stomach and dissolves over 6 to 8 weeks. And we just gave them one of these. And they were okay. They're about so big. They're quite a lot for even a ewe to swallow. But I didn't have any problems on any choking on them. So we got a cattle applicator with a rubber end, stuck the bullet in, put it in their mouth. Now, but they've got a big ridge on the back of their tongue, sheep. If you get it in front of that and push it in, they just spit it back out every time. So you have got to go in there and get it up over the roof of the mouth, over that ridge, and pop, and they have no choice but to swallow it. So they're okay swallowing that. Fairly big ewes, 175 pound in weight, sort of size, you know, so Mills and Suffolk Cross and bigger ewes, you know what I mean. So yeah, so I mean, I've never had any problems with hypomagnesemia when I've done that on new lays, so worth thinking about. Also, you know, it's just general health care. I mean, checking the ewes, maybe, and lambs once a day, having a really good look round them. And, you know, I had a Land Rover and a tractor, but the best thing I ever had for looking around the sheep was a 4-wheel quad ATV. And, you know, you're out amongst them then, you can see all the problems. It gets a bit cold in the winter, but you know, you're really out there with them, got the dogs on the back of it on a bit of mat so that they don't go through the guard. And, you know, that's a great way to look round sheep on that, up on the hills and stuff. You know, ATVs are brilliant. And anyway, you know, that's good stockmanship, looking around for any health conditions and that. I mean, coming into, you know, April, end of April, you've got to start watching out for fly strike, haven't you? Now, the ewes, you know, you can round tail them and I always used to round tail in the spring before shearing. Makes it easier for the shearing, gets the dags off of them, you know, the dirt off their back end and cleans them up. I mean, you know, I've never really had problems with ewes with that, with lambs needing dagging that much at that age. Maybe the odd one that's had a bit of a scour or something. But, just, you know, go through ewes and round tail them if you can. Now, if you're a small flock owner, I mean, if you've got electric shears and you're round tailing, you sit them between your legs and you know, you go down the leg and up the other side and over the top of the tail, it's clean. It doesn't take long. But, you know, smaller flocks, just a pair of little hand shears. You can get these really big ones, but you only want a little pair of hand shears. And the best way to do them, you know, if you haven't, not that strong or don't want to sit them up, is just to put a loop of rope or, you know, weave some baler twine or something, but a bit of rope's best, and just, you know, tie it to something, you know, stable, and just have a loop in it and just put the loop over their head and then push them forward into it and just stand behind them with your legs astride either side, flat against the side so they can't keep moving side to side, and just stand on above them and just clip over the top of the tail, over the tail, down the side of each tail, down the legs. Now, when you're round tailing, you've got to be careful you don't cut their tendons, you know, and stuff like that. So be careful, but, you know, just give them a good clean up, you know, and you want to be an inch or so above the tail at least and get the loose wool off and down each side of the leg. Now, also, when you're turned out, you've got to watch out for mastitis, you know, and obviously, very cold weather, you know, you want as much wool around them as possible, of course, because cold weather can bring on mastitis as well. And, you know, you get this E. coli mastitis, one of the worst ones, but you can get normal mastitis. So having a couple of these cattle tubes for mastitis handy with you, you know, have a medical box that you take around with you in your vehicle or whatever you're doing, that you can carry around or easily go and get. And, you know, just give them half a tube of that up their teat. You know, you put it just inside the teat. They actually fit up inside the teat and squirt in and just massage, hold the end of the teat so it don't come back out, and just massage it all up into the udder. Now, do the good side first. You know, it's worth doing the good side as well. So use half of it up the good side and do that first, then use it on the other side. Otherwise, you're taking the mastitis straight into the good side. So now, E. coli mastitis, I mean, it goes black and rotten, and, you know, they're finished, really. It will kill some. You give them a shot of penicillin, it'll kill some of them, yeah. But, some other shepherds that I've spoken to, I mean, it rots and it goes black and it usually spreads to both sides of the udder. Some shepherds say cut the teat off, but I'm not always keen on doing that. It's going to split and rupture anyway. Once they got it both sides, you're better off taking them out the field, aren't you? I mean, you know, if their lambs are old enough to go round and, you know, get enough food themselves, then that's okay. If not, then they've got to be bottle reared or, you know, whatever you choose to do with them. But, yeah, get them out the field once they've got that. They're only going to go around and spread it to others. I mean, you know, it's going to rupture and spread on the grass and stuff wherever they're going. You know, they're basically finished once they've got that. They'll never be able to milk again. Other mastitis quite often don't milk again either. Now, so that's that. I mean, the other thing you've got to watch out for is coccidiosis. And now, coccidiosis, really do the lambs in. The ewes are not affected by it generally. It is quite often on grass that's been used for a very, very long time. And, it's just got a build up, and for some reason that year it's coccidiosis. And, the first thing you see is, the first day you see a few lambs standing around, quite often close to fences. If there's stinger nettles in the field, they're going to stand behind the stinger nettles. And, you look around and you'll find their scour with blood in it. And you've got to treat them that day, because the next day, half the lambs in that field will have it. A few won't be susceptible to it. They say that it's up to 3 months they get it, but I've had lambs well beyond nearly 6 months that have got coccidiosis before now. Now, the first time I had it in one group of lambs, the vets and you can take a sample of that scour down to your vet and they'll look at it under a microscope and tell you it is coccidiosis. But you've got to do it all the same day. Now, they gave us terramycin long-acting for that, and, it was great. It cured them, but very expensive, given that much antibiotic, because it was nearly like, for the lambs we had, was nearly 4 mil each, I think they had to have of it. So we used a lot of it, because we had about 200 lambs in that field. Had to treat every one. The best thing is to go and get a coccidiosis drench, even if you've got to drive a long way, to go and get it and get them drenched that day, because the next day you have loads. And once they've had that, they never really recover properly, and some of them will be runts after that. Now, when you see them, not only are they scarring, but below their loin, where their stomach is, you see the triangle bit below the loin will quite often be pinched in. They look very pinched, hunched up. So, be very watchful for such things as this. And now, when the lambs get to about 6 weeks, so really you've got 6 weeks lambing. When the last 2 weeks are approaching 5 to 6 weeks, you want to go out there and do your first worming. But the other thing that happens, that would be in the springtime, all this hot, cold, changeable weather, wet, so and so, is very stressful for the sheep. It's also time for fly strike, as I say. But the one thing you've got to watch out for if you're in a pastorella area is lambs dying of pneumonia, which pastorella is pneumonia. Now, if you're in that sort of area, you can use, I think it's Colivac or Heptivac P, that's different drugs you can get anyway, for giving your ewes a booster, once a year of that maybe, because it does the Clostridial diseases 4 weeks before lambing. But at 6 weeks you give your lambs, and if they're in a pastoral area, you might lose 1 or 2 lambs through stress of handling. You've got to worm burden drench them anyway at 6 weeks. So they're the two things to do at the same time. Give them a shot of, if you're in a pastorella area, and get pastorella, which I was in one area up in the South Downs here. We had it bad, and we vaccinated all the lamb. Now, the first injection with lambs, although they do get a little bit through the ewes colostrum if they're vaccinated, the first jab is just a preliminary one, just to get them on it. And then 4 weeks later, you give them a booster jab. But we never did do the booster jab, as it happens. We sometimes did it in the autumn when, they got a bit like that. But we didn't do it. We just gave them the first jab, the primary jab. And that was good enough. It kept them safe enough. It had enough effect to prevent it. Once they're into the summer, then, most of them are gone by the autumn anyway, hopefully. So that's the other thing to watch out for that, but you got to, if you're on wormy ground, you need to worm your lambs every 4 weeks. So first time at 6 weeks with that jab if you need it, and then vaccine, and then go on and worm them every 4 weeks, because once they get worms, you got to watch out. Now, different sort of worms, can cause them to scour and stuff. If you go out into your field and you round up your sheep and they're all coughing like mad, they got lungworm, you need to treat them for lungworm. So in your drench, get a multispectral drench that treats all those things anyway. So, it keeps that worm burden down anyway. So that's more or less just after turnout, and I'll go on to some of the other things you come across later on in the year and different things you need to be doing. These days, I don't think dipping's compulsory over here anymore. Well, it wasn't. So you can basically, in the spring when you start getting fly strike, you want to spray them is the easiest way. You can get these drench guns with a sprayer nozzle on and a backpack to put on. You just spray them down the backbone and a little squirt around the backside, over the tail, down each side. You don't use too much of it. It's not that much. So one squirt down the background, half a squirt over the tail on one side, half a squirt over the tail on the other side, and it spreads and finds its own way around the sheep, and it protects them from all, ticks, lice, fly strike, all those things. So that's the easy way to do it. Quite expensive, of course, but it saves dipping as well. So, if you haven't got a dip, you don't want to, do you? So anyway, I'll go on to more next week. And, that's the first sort of things you've got to watch out for. Keep your eye out for general health conditions and that. If you've got foot rot, then you need to be, once the lambs are old enough, parting your ewes off and putting them through a foot bath, your lambs too. The other thing you can get is this scald on the grass, where they get this scald between their feet, and you do want to treat it. Put the lambs and the ewes through a foot bath once they're 6 weeks old. Treat this scald, because it gets very sore between their clothes. So, do what you can for it. And, I've used zinc sulfate, I've used formalin, different times, different types of things, better with others. And if you're just running through the foot bath without standing in them, because zinc sulfate, you really need to stand them in it. If you're just running through a foot bath, then formalin's probably the best. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Oh, by the way, the playlist link's up here for all the other videos I made about shepherding, so click on that to see the playlist. Cheers. Neil.